Hi everyone and welcome back. I might be a little late to the discussion about Emma Hayes, but after listening to her audiobook, doing an internet deep dive about her, and watching tons of Chelsea footage, I wanted to share 3 unique ideas I've learned that distinguish her as a coach and will make her an amazing option for the US Women's National Team future. So I think we can't get very far in this video without talking about her audiobook title, Kill the Unicorn. It seemed a little weird to me when I first heard it, but then when I understood why, it's actually very interesting. The unicorn is often viewed as a magical creature able to solve any problem. But what Hayes says is that we've got to kill the unicorn. And youth today are smart enough to see past that idea of a perfect leader who can solve everything, because the reality is all leaders make poor decisions at some point in their careers, and all of them are human. None of them have a crystal ball. So she says perhaps it's better not to believe that hype, and I think this really sums up her coaching style, because she doesn't want people to believe she's a unicorn, one person who's running the whole show by herself. In fact, one story that really helped unpack the meaning of this for me was when she spoke about a specific installation in the Tate Modern Art Gallery in London. It's 800 analog radios, each tuned to a different station, all in a circular structure. And she said that the noise is constant, and no two experiences there are ever the same because there's always something different playing on the radio. And she says that human beings are similar to this. They're similar, all radios, all humans, but they're unique because they each have their own frequency. So her job isn't to do everything. She has staff and players for that, but her job is to tune the frequencies to the same wavelength. That's 40 to 50 players and staff members, so people can understand each other and be on the same page. And that really emphasized just how important that team environment is to her and her job as a manager in creating that. But something she focused on in the beginning of the book was that the best coaches need emotional intelligence. And the biggest thing I took away in total was that the importance of holistic coaching can never be understated. Because when a coach can take in the tactical and analytical elements of the game, but also the social and emotional parts of it, that's when they're going to have the most success. So that was a little long, but I think having that groundwork is really important to understand why she's such an effective coach. So number 1 is being an advocate for women. She's been a really big advocate for things like increasing the reach of the game through having bigger stadiums. But something that has been her key focus is the Chelsea's player health movement. In 2020, Chelsea began creating specific player plans. They've invested into understanding the impact of the menstrual cycle on players' bodies to address things like weight fluctuation and injuries associated with it. She even had a whole chapter in her book specifically directed to issues in the lack of funding around women's health. Specifically, Hayes' investment has gone into things like enlisting a pelvic floor physiotherapist to be part of one of her players' care teams. This did things like monitor her nutrition and energy levels, strength and conditioning, and more. And that personalized approach allowed her player to bounce back quicker than anyone expected, even in time for the World Cup. After FA passed their comprehensive family leave policy in 2022, which included 14 weeks full pay and bonuses for women taking maternity leave, Hayes has been a big part of expanding this too. Overall, it's really clear that she wants to make sure players who want to be mothers during their careers are supported, and she's done a lot of stuff that's evidence towards that. Player testimonials have also praised her for not just looking at the physical side, but also the mental side. England internationals Carney and Aluko noted that during mental health struggles, Hayes was extremely understanding and supportive. Ultimately, the fact that Hayes understands that getting the most out of players on the field requires investment into performance optimization and mental work centered around women specifically. And that's something that the health system has missed for centuries, but can really make a difference. Number 2 is a good leader. I have 2 sections that I think really give us insight into this. One of the first things she specifically highlighted was that the best, most successful organizations have the best communications. Leaders must bother to find out who their people are and what matters to them. She wants to know what drives her team, what is important to them. And I think this really gets to the heart of the idea. You can't tap into your players' talent if you don't know their needs and their value system. And when you phrase something in the right way, you can really have a much more receptive audience on the other end. One really good example of this was when one of her youth players was being sent on loan. She learned that the most important thing was for this player to be able to represent the Chelsea badge. So when discussing the loan plans with the player, she phrased it in a way where she understood that even at her loan club, she could still fulfill this because excelling at the loan club would reflect well on Chelsea and honor the badge. The second thing is using this information and communication to get the best out of your team. She narrates an example when she made all her players wear Arsenal jerseys to practice, and they'd honestly thought she had tipped over the edge, and I was confused when I first heard this too, but there was a purpose to all of this. This was at the beginning when she first joined the club and when Chelsea was near the bottom of the league and Arsenal had won 9 consecutive titles. So at this time, her players had a pretty strong inferiority complex and she had to eradicate it. So during practice, during things like rondos, which is a keep away game, she had the middle players wear Arsenal red and the outside players wear Chelsea blue. In addition to this, she also left one Arsenal shirt up in the dressing room with post-it notes allowing players to write what they thought it represented to them. After wearing the Arsenal shirt as a defender in the rondo, the Arsenal shirt just became any other shirt, simply a color to mark the player. As for the post-it notes, the words went from words like nervous, anger, frustration, to overrated, old news, need to step down. And after this, she hung up a Chelsea shirt with the same invitation to stick post-it notes. The words her players used were winners, ambitious, proud, creative, about to make winning permanent, and so on. While the inspiration for the idea was borrowed from something Liverpool's Bill Shankly did years ago, good leaders know how to bring out the best in their squad and take ideas that they believe can achieve that. And Hayes has done just that. In the context of her role at the US Women's National Team, I think that these things can be really important because they're going through this period of uncertainty right now. Their identity is being questioned, players are being questioned, there's a lot of politics within players and even outside the organization. I think Hayes' focus on bringing the team unit together and focusing on the socio-emotional aspects could have a ton of value during this rebuild time. Finally, we're on to number 3, and I think all that work they're doing off the field is really translating into on-field success. Hayes ticks off yet another box in that holistic coaching checklist with her great tactical abilities. Chelsea's kind of proof that good chemistry off the field translates into good chemistry on it, and I think their fluidity and adaptability is something to really watch. They're very quick on the attack, and I'm playing a few clips right now that I think demonstrate that really well. It's hard to defend something like this because it's 1 or 2 short passes and then they're out, playing a ball over the top to one of their wingers, and they've been really effective on both sides. Just look at Lauren James to see that. They also have a very good defensive structure with even their higher attacking mids playing a super crucial role in dropping back on the counter. Something I noticed is that they're able to move around their formation and strategy based on the game, whether it's in the Women's Super League or going to the Champions League. They're able to experiment with possession and formation, and they're willing to do that. Specifically in the context of how this will play out with the US Women's National Team, I have a few questions. Coaching a club team differs greatly from a national team. You spend less time with them except near major tournaments and yearly camps. So how does that change her coaching approach to accommodate that? Hayes has also noticed that with the US Women's National Team specifically, she thinks they lack creative talents. So is that something her versatility could help with, and how will her adaptability tactics play out with less time to try out all these new things? Lastly, she collaborated with the interim coach on a roster that has phased off older players and incorporated newer players, and she's been instrumental at Chelsea in shaping youth players of the future. My question is, can she do that again here? Let me know your thoughts. Well, I hope you enjoyed my analysis of Emma Hayes breaking down why her coaching is so effective into social, emotional, analytical, and tactical lenses. If you enjoyed some of the stories I talked about, make sure to check out her book. And while we're not going to be seeing her in action in the US for a while, I'm really excited for the future ahead. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, and if you have any other video ideas, please let me know in the comments down below. I'll see you next time.